right.
It's gonna help me do the minutes later.
Okay. Let's get our planning and zoning meeting started. We will start with roll call. Margaret Nickel and I am here. Daniel Doster. Shall we put him down as resigned for this meeting?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Laura Kelly? Here. Gary Nelson? Is absent. Tommy Smith?
Here.
Verna Tucker? Is absent for this meeting. And we will go ahead and add Jamie Lara to our. Oh, yeah, wonderful. Okay. Review and approval of minutes from the December 14th, 2021 meeting. Did everyone have an opportunity to? I think you're doing a really good job on these minutes.
Thank you.
I mean, they're very. I've been here on board for 3 different zoning administrators. And we went from like nothing on our minutes to like full stories on our minutes.
Thank you.
And I think these are very good. And I just want to point that out because when the supervisors read them and members of the public read them, they're to the point, they get across what we talked about, and I think that's what's important. So I just want to say thank you. So do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Almost.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second. And let's have the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. New business. We're welcoming our new planning and zoning commissioner, Jamie Lara. Would you like to think you know some folks, but would you just give us a little brief synopsis of yourself and why you're wanting to serve?
Well, my name is Jamie Lara. I was born in Webster. Have my brother, Gerlin, borrowed my baby name. Yeah, that's my brother.
That's
I
my husband out there.
I just learned all this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my husband out there in uniform. Yeah, and you guys.
Yeah, when we were little. Yeah, yeah. So I've always been here, and my boys are a stepson. He lives in Iowa City, and then I have 2 boys that are in college, and they wrestle for the university.
Lots of rest going on.
Oh, yeah, really.
Okay.
It's crazy now. The college is just a totally different level, but they're juniors and seniors. But I am also an owner of Legacy Realty.
Okay.
Which is First Avenue North, 1100 block. I actually would have been January, I think would have been my 5th year serving as a commissioner for the planning and zoning for the city of Fort Dodge.
Okay.
Well, I had purchased a lot and I didn't think anything about it. Started building, and once I was outside of the city limits, I could no longer be a member to the board. So I like to be aware of what's going on, and it helps me too, my knowledge, knowing a lot with the real estate.
Okay.
And I don't just sell residential, I sell just as much farm ground and, you know, commercials, everything. So it's nice to know, you know, people coming up to me and say, oh, I want you to find me this ground because I want to do this. I'm like, hey, first of all, you have to get everything approved, and it's kind of nice knowing the steps. So I saw this favorite opportunities to stay in the community, but yet county community. Yes, nice to meet everybody.
Yes, me too. Yeah. Rick told me.
Oh my gosh, and I'm married. My husband's Nicolara. I've been married for 20 years. I'm horrible. I left my husband out.
No, I did that when I first started out too. It was like, oh, that's right, I'm married.
Yeah, 24 years next week. So yeah. And he is a maintenance engineer for GP.
Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for serving. Okay, so we're on to our new business. B is electing a chairperson and a vice chairperson for the 2022 year. Any nominations?
Well, Margo, I would like to let you.
Okay.
Great job.
I'm important. That's what I was thinking. Nobody allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
exactly him.
okay. I did talk to Gary, and I know Gary said he is okay with serving as the chair, or vice chair, I guess. You know, and that's the thing about our chairperson and our vice chairperson. Gary, he kind of said, oh, he said, you want to be president again? It's like, it's not president. We are all equal board members. Everybody's opinion counts. Everybody has the right to come in and scream and shout if they want. Everybody has the right to talk to board of supervisors. You know, we're all on the same level playing field. And I just want to make sure we all know that. So right now, then we'll say that the motion is for Margaret Knipple as chairperson and Gary Nelson as vice chair. Is that our motion?
Yes.
Okay, Tommy? And we have a second on that. Okay. And we'll take your votes. All in favor, say aye. Yeah, I just like to make sure that, you know, when I first started, is most of the members on the board, I think when I started, were actually on the board when they put together the comprehensive plan. And so I felt really uneducated, really stupid, and I was just, you know, sitting and I wouldn't make comments. And then it's like, you know what? I just gotta say stuff, you know? So, yeah, I just like to make sure, and I tell you, when people, even with supervisors in the public, now, they come to any of the board members, anybody has questions. And like I said, I'm always in here about Jeff, about Allison, so feel free.
You're not bothering me.
Huh?
You're not bothering me.
I come in
He
with
has
questions.
someone else to talk to, so I get the stuff done.
I'm just gonna do secret. Okay, all right. On to C. Jeff, do you have a presentation on the 2021 annual planning and zoning administrator report?
Sure, thank you. Just like last year, I decided to put together a little PowerPoint presentation on the permitting activities in the county for the past year and some of the trends and what we've been seeing. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is for the annual year from January 1st to the end of the year. So we ended up breaking things down by quarters. It should be noted that the board on May 25th of last year adopted a resolution to reduce the permit fees in half. It's kind of like a COVID type of incentive. And so we'll talk about those fees as we get further into it. So here's the fee schedule. And so you can see this is how the fee schedule. This is for all residential, commercial, and industrial permits. And what impact that had. So in 2021, we issued a total of 16 single family home permits. That was a little two more than that were issued back in 2020 of last year. The trend is showing that we're building bigger houses. What we can tell based on the square footage. You can go to the next slide. This is pretty much, yeah, there we go. In terms of non-residential structures, there was only four permits issued for non-residential structures. For revenue of $1,000. We'll go to the next slide. Residential accessory structure. So we did a total of 44 permits, and 59 were issued in 2020. So we're pretty busy the first couple quarters, as you can tell, in terms of the number of permits that were issued. We can go to the next slide. Again, there we go. So this kind of gives you the trends for residential main structures, which are single family. Over that, I'd say 5 to 6 year period, we were averaging 12. Of course, last year we did 16.
Last year we had 14.
14, so we were up a little bit. And then in terms of accessory structures, the average is roughly 42 over that 5 year period, and we're just slightly above that. So in all, in 2021, we had a fairly decent year. We were down a little bit because of accessory structures from the prior year, but It was a healthy permitting year. Go to the last slide. There we go. So the revenue that we brought in 2021 was 25,350. As you can see, 2018 was our enter year. So we did the numbers. If we would have ever had that COVID incentive in there, we would have been very compatible to the 2018 figure. I think we were at around 33,000 in total annual revenue. But now we're back January 1st to full permitting fees. And that's just pretty much the synopsis of the permitting activities last year, which are pretty much kind of consistent with the prior year. They weren't down like 2000. For some reason, 2019 was a low year all year round for just permitting. Revenue only coming in at 12,000. So what's that? 2018 was very healthy. 2021 was very compatible with 2018. Well, of course, we had an incentive in 2020 too, where the permit fee were cut in half, and I forget for how long. It was probably at least half of the year.
I must have just gotten in on the tail end of that.
Yeah. In 2020, I believe it was like right around June, I think.
I
wasn't it?
think so, yeah.
June all the way to the end of the year, permits were half off, and then they decided to go ahead and continue that resolution, or continue the same philosophy for 2021. So, yeah, last couple of years have been pretty good.
What's your projection for this year? Do you have a guess or any ideas?
I have no
I
idea.
mean, we're off to a good start so far. I mean, granted, we only had one, but it's the 11th of the year, so.
Yeah, so it's really hard to say. Yeah, I mean, interest rates are remaining low, which is,
We said
contributing
one.
factor.
Is that a new home?
Actually, no, it's a non-residential temporary.
But a lot of those subdivisions, like the Sheeper and the Savage, those are all built out now. There was a few vacant lots out there, some of those subdivisions, and those are all 2020, 21 were all built on. Yeah. So,
Jamie, what's the word where you guys are right now? Are they planning on marketing that subdivision? Do you know?
Well, yeah, kind of. Lisa wanted to do it. This is the thing, it'll be part of the city.
Oh, it's gonna be, okay.
So my husband and I, we built below on National, which is like right at the end of the river. So Lisa's parents put this together back in the 70s, all these lots everywhere. Because I have a parents' house for sale, and that's when I learned about all this. But they're 4 to 5 acre lots and they're beautiful. But it is a part of river forest. So what will happen is it'll come off of Kennedy Brown all the way in to the edge where like I sold that roundhouse at the end of Williams Drive, you keep going all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Kennedy Brown. So
For Johnson Break and Waters.
Yeah.
And it'll go on to the north.
So, but the infrastructure's a lot of money to get everything out there. It's unbelievable.
I think.
So
what-
I honestly think she was shying away from it. So then I talked to somebody about, I'm trying to get houses, and just gotta get the places to be built on,
Yeah, well,
and there isn't a whole bunch right now.
they came forth with a couple of conceptual plans about a year ago, and they're batting it around, but of course, they're trying to comply with the county street zoning requirements. I think what they want to do is obviously wait for the utilities and infrastructure to get there, and possibly do a planned development where they can have some flexibility in those lot sizes and increase the density. It's a beautiful,
There.
so I could see them increasing, probably having different variety of lot sizes up there. I think that would make sense, but who knows? I mean, I think they're waiting for a certain number of lots to market. That's just my mind. I don't know how they see the returns, on their investments and everything, so.
I mean, she's working on it, and she
Yeah.
has been. Because it wasn't to Symbol Holdings, and that's the main. Not just one decision, it's. So that's why it kind of takes a while. It took me like 2.5 years just to go yes or on a lot that we. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that was a platted subdivision. They had improved frontage along there, and I ended up talking to Jamie Joe and we just released them. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't allow anybody to build internally, there's no infrastructure in the road,
Yeah.
so it's like, okay. So, I mean, it's gonna have to be replatted anyway, so when they come forth, whether this gets annexed to the city or they want to do a development through the county, so. we'll just have to
Yeah,
see
because
how-
that's an old, it was.
I was gonna say, when was that originally?
in the
Oh, it
70s.
goes way back,
Way
yeah,
back 70s.
70s, yeah.
Okay,
That's what I just checked just the stamp on it,
okay.
and it was 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that around, you know, that was maybe kind of forgotten kind of things and which, you know, for economy reasons or whatever, that they maybe didn't go forward with. And that's where we talk about our maps, where I'd like to like take a look at our maps and take a look at like the surrounding areas and cities. And I just know like Western Fort Dodge, where we had some farm ground, that was originally platted for, you know, quite a few building sites, and then I think it was got kind of forgotten, you know, but, you know, try to.
Yeah, it's crazy, like even forgot when I said this, when we first started the development over there on Williams Bend in 2017. Started for stuff, but it's crazy building when they come, I can't believe.
no,
it's
yeah, I
building.
mean, the utilities are
I
starting to
had
creep up that
7 of-
way.
Yeah, I had 7 of them sold before we even
Yeah.
done. It was just crazy.
Yeah. That's good, that's good, that's neat. Do you think that 2019 number has anything to do with the downturn in the ag economy in the area?
Could be, yeah, I don't know.
Because that is quite a difference, yeah, the 2018 to 2019, and that's, I'm trying to in my mind think about that, prices were back then. Yeah,
And we
It doesn't
also,
change.
yeah,
sorry, and we also for a while, I don't know if maybe some permits got pushed off into 2020 because we didn't have a planning and zoning administrator.
For like 3 months, there was a few
For a
permits,
while.
yeah, there were a few permits.
Yeah. And then it was more than 3 months. It was for a while, we didn't have anyone.
yeah.
Mark and Jamie, you know, checked in when they could, but, so I think that might be something.
Yeah. We'll see what 2022 has in store. Hopefully we can keep those levels. I mean,
Are you, is this all information that you presented to the board of supervisors?
I'll give it to the board of supervisors, yeah.
Okay.
I'll pass it along to them. I might just do a 2-minute presentation in front of them. I did the same thing last year. Give them a small presentation, just so they know what's going on, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No,
Okay. Just, anyone else have any other questions on any of the numbers? Okay, we go on to item number D, discussion. Modifications to the Webster County zoning ordinance, Article 6 parking regulations. And I'm hoping you have some comments on this. Jeff, I mean, it was interesting information
Yeah.
to read through.
so, yeah, what's probably best is, look, maybe the best way to tackle this is just go page by page. And then,
Okay.
you know, if there's any comments, and I'll just kind of explain what was done. Obviously, if you see something that was crossed out, that was crossed out, what's underlined was added. So under the first page, we just added a purpose statement. And then I took out some stuff that just didn't even make sense. And that's crossed out. And then the requirement on the bottom, as we go over to page 2, that combine 3 and 4, that one wheel stop should be placed in each parking space. So we require wheel stops. I didn't mean, you can either require them or not require them, and there's no problem with requiring them. So I kept that in there. And I increased the parking stall dimension to 10 by 18 feet from 9 by 18. So when anything that comes in that's new, they'll have to comply with that. And on occasion, I do get people that want to restripe their parking lots, and they'll come in with a plan. At that time, we'll require them to do the 10 by 18. So this is something I don't think I'm going to go out there and force and tell people to convert their 9 by 18 parking spots. It's just, you know, as we move forward, we'll get this cleaned up. And it's not, obviously I want your guys' input. It's nice to have that 10 by 18 space. I'm just saying, I mean, even though there are a lot of cars are getting smaller. When you pull in these 9 by 18, I don't know how people do it. I mean, it's just tight. And with that extra foot is a world of a difference. So,
Were you keeping item 7 there, Jeff?
Yeah.
The.
yeah, the 9, yeah, that's typically along a street. So yeah, keep the 9 by 23.
Instead of going to the
Yeah.
10 by
Yeah,
23.
keep the 9 by 23. Yeah, but all the drive aisle widths made sense. I mean, I've been around this stuff for like 30 years and been with a lot of cities and communities, and I didn't see anything. Those all made sense in terms of minimum widths and so forth. There's no need to change those. Page 3, section 602. All of that just stayed the same. That's your handicap required parking. That's stuff that's required by the state. When we get onto page 4, what I ended up doing here is I got into the state statutes and I just copied everything word for word from the state statutes into here on page 4 and 5. Some of these diagrams are going to be fixed, they're blurry, just so you know. But everything you see on page 4 and 5 in terms of the details for handicap parking and the striping and the arrangements, this is all out of the state code. And then you get into on page 6, I just went back through here and deleted what was in there. A lot of this was pretty much identical to what, or somewhat identical to what was underlined and added. So everything now just strictly complies with the state statute. Handicap. And as we move on to page 8, so this is a whole new table, and the required minimum off-street parking requirements for uses. The existing table will come out. That's just not shown, and all this will be added. A lot of the figures pretty much stayed the same. I added a few more uses in here just to expand upon that. And what I ended up using was the ITE parking generation manual to identify what the minimum required parking for each use should be. It was either obviously based on square footage, or maybe it was based on some other requirement, based on capacity or some type of a unit or some other type of figure. But a lot of this is just industry standards. These are your minimum requirements that are required just to comply with that use. Anything that stands out you want to talk about, you can come back and talk about that. But on page 10, this is all new. This is off-street loading and space design. This obviously is a requirement for the loading zones that are required for commercial and industrial development. If it's say industrial commercial use that's less than 14,999 square feet, then we require 12 by 25 or 12 by 55 space. If it's larger, oh, I'm sorry here. That's a 12 by 30. So once we start getting into larger buildings that are more than 14,999 square feet, then we're gonna have to release that 55-foot long moving zone. And then obviously you'll see the table down here based on the size of the building, the minimum number of spaces that are required. So this was never in the code. We didn't have a requirement for the number of loading zones for commercial and industrial developments. Typically they meet that, but on occasion, especially when you end up seeing there's a lot of distribution, industrial distribution or industrial uses, and we got quite a few bays, but this was based off an industry standard. And it was something that needed to be added into the code. All loading zones shall be paved. And then the last one is queuing requirements. This is something last page. We didn't have this in our code for drive-throughs, restaurant drive-throughs, car washes, in terms of how many queuing spaces, minimum queuing spaces were needed before you hit the service window or pickup, or some type of service. So we define that as being 10 wide by 25 feet long, measured from, typically from the pickup window or service window all the way back, or the ordering window. The bank drive-throughs per service window. A lot of this is just for the service windows, service position. C is important. All vehicle queuing measurements shall commence from the drive-through service window. In the case where there are two service windows are provided, the measurement shall be commenced at the second window from the service areas as provided. We gotta make sure, we just have to make sure there's enough queuing there and stacking so that they don't interfere with drive aisles and other parking, on-site parking. So that was lacking in there. We wanted to get some vehicle queuing, minimum vehicle queuing requirements for certain uses. And obviously, a lot of the stuff was just taken from other codes, and analyzed and reviewed and put into this section. So these were just numbers that I came up with, from other cities, counties, communities, minimum requirements, just to make sure we had requirements on that. So with that, I just wanted to do a little facelift to this section, some things that need to get done in here. And that's where we start.
And just to be clear, these are minimum.
There's the minimum, just the
If
minimum.
somebody is, when someone comes to you with a plan and you sit down with Jamie, Joel, and you guys are figuring stuff out, these are minimums, and people can have more if they need to or whatever. We're just kind of giving them a starting point.
Yeah, and so the required parking for those uses all required to be paved in the county. So, so they have to pave the required amount. They want to go above that and not pave and have like a gravel area or whatsoever, they can do that. But at least we have, a requirement for paving in there. You'd be surprised some of these counties, the rules are so lax that, it's nice to have paid parking requirement. And we may see that or some, you'll see that a lot of times in institutional uses, churches, they'll do grass parking. So forth.
So everything that you have crossed out that you're taking out, we're not missing it, it's put in a different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of that was crossed out was the existing handicap stuff, which is just it's all similar to the state requirements. I just wanted, so I'm just following the state requirements on all that. Didn't see anything really different.
The one thing I thought that was interesting about that is the fact that this plan was put together in 2008, adopted in 2009. Your state standards would probably have been similar, the same. Why JO Associates didn't have it more to the way that we put it. I'm just wondering, as a company, why it wasn't stated out the way that you like to see it stated out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
JEO did the comp plan. Did they do the zoning ordinance too?
Yeah.
Oh, they did some of the zoning ordinance? Okay. So, yeah.
I mean,
they had-
I like the way you have it right now.
Yeah, we just have to clean up these diagrams, and the diagrams are nice to have in there to show the minimum requirements and what we're looking for. And these are really, these come from the state requirements also. We want to follow state law and this stuff. I mean, ADA, there's no need to go above and beyond ADA requirements from the state. I don't think anywhere form. I mean, yeah, you want to make sure that one of the main things is to make sure these parking stalls or if they're located, closest to the nearest entrance, and they have an accessible path that's not blocked. So when they get out of their vehicles and stuff like that. So all that needs to be taken a look at, and we do get plans when they come in to make sure that they're all ADA compliant. Otherwise, they get sued. They can get sued. I mean, you see that happen all the time. Yeah.
No, I like the way you have it broken down. That makes it very simple. I gotta tell you, I was a little nervous when you showed up with that great big book about that thing.
Oh, that was.
Started talking about, how we need to review the parking, I'm thinking, oh, wow.
Well, those were all the uses and all the parking studies to help identify the minimum parking requirements. I ended up using that and then also some of the other counties, and I'm kind of familiar with what some of the minimum requirements are for certain uses, what I've seen in the past after reviewing literally hundreds of site plans in my life and what's really needed for certain uses. So we don't have, you don't want to have a parking problem out there. That's the main thing, you know. When- But then you don't want, but then you don't want a ton of it either. I know there's a happy medium, but you'd rather see more landscaping put in and more, you know, more things to,
Oh, yeah.
exactly, so.
No,
So with that, I mean, you guys have any questions or anything you want to modify there? What I'll do is end up putting the amendment together for our next meeting and advertising it. And it'll be the ordinance amendment. And this will be really cleaned up a little bit better. To show clearly what's been crossed out and what's been added. It's a little bit rough, but it's pretty much portrays what needs to get done. So.
Yeah, my only question, I guess, was the minimum dimension for the parallel parking space. If we were gonna do a parking stall, make the parking stall 10 by 18. If that parallel parking space should have been 10 by 20.
Yeah, well, I figured you might have a question on that. Typically, that's something that's right, you know, next to the curb, and you're not gonna have anybody parking on the other side. You have to drive on. But, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see that case too often in the county. That's more for an urban environment, you know, you know, it could happen. I mean,
That gets into your, when you're talking about parallel parking, I guess that depends on where you're at. I mean, if you think about right out here in front of the courthouse, you're kind of limited by what you've got in the street.
it could be in a parking lot too. You're right, it could be, you could have all these things off the side, you could have parallel spaces. So, yeah, I mean,
I used to have to left-hand parallel park wheelchair with van in downtown Des Moines. So yeah, so I was like, yeah, all the more space, the better. And yeah, left-hand parallel parking is a real joy. But no, I think that what you've written out, Jeff, is really clear.
okay.
I mean, I thought we were gonna get a big book on this stuff, but this seems pretty.
Yeah, it'll be cleaned up more next time. Not much is gonna change, but I'll have it more cleaned up in the ordinance form for your review, so you can get it done. So I'll be working with Darren Driscoll on that to show exactly what's been crossed out, and what's been added. So I may end up crossing out the whole section, so, and then just adding
Just
this,
rewrite the
and
section.
just write the whole section. Yeah, I think that's probably.
Have you ever had anybody just really fight this?
No.
Really fight the parking issue? I mean, like I said, we've got this written out where it's pretty clear. It seems like it's very generous. I can't imagine anybody fighting it.
Not here.
And I guess that's why I asked, because of your
Yeah.
experience in working
Yeah.
in Florida, working some of the other places.
Oh, no, down south, oh, yeah.
Space
no, yeah.
is a, a prime commodity.
Yeah.
That would definitely make parking and having to have more spots or minimum requirements a big issue, but, I mean, hopefully we don't have too many people that are fighting it. So you're gonna put something together then?
Then we'll advertise for it, we'll have, public hearing. And you guys will vote it up or down or whatever, or changes or modifications, and we'll pass it along to the board of supervisors for 2 hearings for. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds good. All right. Unless you have anything else on that, Jeff?
no, nothing on that. No.
Okay, there's not an E on here, and I'm not gonna talk too much about that, about the club plan.
Yeah, we're gonna, I think, yeah, this, I know we talked about that, Margo, on adding a D, and I'll make sure I'll do that next time. I think we want to put something out there. If there's any other business that you guys have.
After talking with, I spoke with Jeff about talking about that comp plan again. And the idea of taking it, possibly taking it out of our comprehensive plan, because it's confusing, it's opening us up to some possible lawsuits. Our county attorney is struggling with it, other attorneys from the area have struggled with it. And I guess my point of view is that if we can't figure this out, how do we expect anybody else to figure it out? So I had Jeff talk with supervisors. I spoke briefly to a couple supervisors today about whether or not they would need us to make like a formal vote and say, look, as a commission, we think this aspect of our comprehensive plan does not work and doesn't fit. And I know one supervisor said that, well, we're going to have this traffic corridor study done. Maybe we should wait till after that. And Jeff said that would be a year.
I think it could be done with that with that study. Because that's, this is one of the things that came up through that whole rezoning case that, it's part of that component. That's how I look at it. So, yeah, and if you guys make a recommendation, I would support as a staff member getting rid of it. I mean, we'll talk more about it, that clump. It's confusing and it just opens up the door.
Well, after we talked about that today, I thought, okay, if we're not 100% sure we want to take that completely out of our comprehensive plan right now. I mean, I understand what a couple of the supervisors said that, oh, let's wait till after the study and see what they recommend. It's like, hey, I personally don't have to wait for a recommendation. I see it doesn't work. I don't need to spend a bunch of money and have a company come in and say, hey, this doesn't work. Because we know that now, we've had that experience. So then I started thinking, well, okay, if supervisors are uncomfortable with taking it out, is there any way to add language to that part of the comprehensive plan that says not to be used for zoning or something like that? I mean, it's my interpretation, and you guys may interpret it a different way, that clump map is the long range plan. And when I spoke with Supervisor Denthal, I told him, if we're maintaining our comprehensive plan where we should be, we shouldn't need that long-term plan. We should be updating and as we go. So I don't feel the need for that long-term plan, but I'm wondering what you thought about, instead of taking it out, adding language to it that would say that it is not to be used for zoning changes.
I'd say take it out.
I like it.
I mean, that's what you mean. You guys have to make a recommendation. If the majority want to keep it in for somehow, we can try to wait a way to keep it in, but I think what I'm gonna probably feel is that the majority of you guys are gonna say take it out, so we'll just tell the consultant right away that this section's gonna come out. And so, our planning is gonna be based on future land uses, and then obviously zoning districts, maybe overlay zoning districts in these areas, and what the design standards are gonna be for these corridors that are gonna be planned or whatever, so.
I would hate to hire a company and have them come in and spend time and money on something that we know doesn't work.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna tell them that that's going away.
Just take it out.
Yeah, we're focusing on these corridors, and these are the existing land use patterns, this is the existing built environment. Go out, take a look at it, analyze it. Tell us what your thoughts are. What the long range plan should look like. And then obviously it involves adopting new future land uses or changing land uses. And then obviously this is going to involve changes to our, zoning ordinance, whether they're zoning districts or overlay zoning district requirements, and what, the uses, the types of uses we want to see and how things are supposed to develop. So yeah, right now I've had 2 phone calls and a couple consultants that are going to bid.
Oh, good.
Put this on record, confidence call.
Okay.
Confidence did call, and so, and then.
Have a vote on something. I'd rather have it advertised that that's something that we were maybe going to do, because if somebody does have a problem with it, and part of the reason, I had Jeff talk to supervisors, and I did talk briefly to supervisors today. I was concerned that if there was any pending or current litigation going on, that might be a real problem if we tried to take it out. And supervisors kind of just said, hey, it's our commission, it's whatever we feel. And we can have a feeling on it and we can have a vote on it maybe at the next meeting and say, you know what, we want to take this out. And we can send it up to the supervisors and the supervisors can say, you know what, we're taking that into consideration, but we're gonna pause on it right now. But at least we can say that we have voted to take it out. But if we want to maybe put that on for the next meeting, and I mean, you guys have to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah,
Um,
I just think it really confuses things. So in my mind, leaving it in just leaves things still over to some interpretations and then possible lawsuits because people are like, well, you have this document here.
Yeah. And my fear too is that if this other study takes a year or longer, if we have more issues come up, then you're setting that precedent that you used it. And that's what also kind of bothers me, that I don't want to set that precedent that we've used this, because then that's gonna make it all more difficult to try to take it out. So,
what I'll do is I'll do an agenda item on the clump. And copy those sections, but there's not a lot in there. Just provide everything, everything in the comp plan, for you to look at and analyze, and obviously, we have an idea that all this will be coming out. Which I know that, we get the 2-page section, remember, Margo?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much more reference. I think didn't we do a search on the clump? I think I might have done a search on the clump. There wasn't a lot of, there wasn't much in the comp plan tonight to it.
like I said.
It's a whole section on its own, it was like, which is good, so it's not referenced, it's rarely referenced elsewhere in the comp plan, if I recall, which is good, so.
Yeah.
That's an easy amendment,
And we have the future land use.
we already have a future land use.
We got that in place, which is
Yeah.
what we're supposed to be using.
And then when you look at that clump area, it's the P59, Highway 20, and that's all gonna be looked at with the consultant, it's more the corridor, that's where your commercial and industrial development's gonna happen, along those corridors, and if somebody wants to do a residential development, just go through the process and it gets reviewed and,
I just don't like it sitting there as
No.
well, I can do whatever I want, because it's in this clump. I'm tired of arguing clump with people.
Yeah,
It's like, no, we have future land use. But I just don't want whoever we have for consultant to spend a lot of time on, because like I said, the number of attorneys that have looked at this issue with this last rezone, it's really kind of surprising that they can't even agree or come up with the way it's supposed to be used.
Yeah.
And-
Well, you're exactly right. That just, because what that's gonna do, you just need to get rid of it because that's gonna conflict with what we're trying to do
Exactly.
by the end of the day. So it's like, you're gonna see this over here, it's like, which, yeah.
Yeah, it's just no way.
And there's a part of me that says, okay, we know that's just gonna come out. That's gonna be our recommendation. We'll just take care of it and the consultant gets on board and we're just gonna tell them this has gotta go. But I'll put it together something so you know exactly what's referenced in that comp plan for the clump. It may just be those 2 pages wherever else it's referenced, so you know exactly where it all lies. And then if you guys really are adamant about getting it out of there, doing a text amendment, we'll do that. We'll make the recommendation and run it all the way up. And
I guess I'm adamant about our board coming to some sort of decision on it and getting it to the supervisors, because the supervisors will do the final say.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to say, hey, we know this doesn't work.
get it
And
out
our
of
job is to take care of the comprehensive plan, and it's a part of it that doesn't work. And to say, no, we're going to just take this out. I mean, just like we're doing with the parking.
there. It's gotta
We're
come.
taking a whole bunch of that out.
It's gotta
And
come.
we're redefining it
Yeah.
and making it easier to see. And I just think that the comp plan is just, like I said, I don't want to go another year and a half if we don't have to, and get that precedent set that when you let this guy rezone this and you let this guy rezone that, and I just see that snowballing. So, and I don't want to spend time with consultant. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if Darren Driscoll camps and Eric Eve camps, obviously Randy Kirsten has his views on it. That's 3 pretty top attorneys in our local area that can't agree on it. So,
Mhm.
and if Darren has to defend us, and he's not quite sure, I just think it's a worthless piece of our comprehensive plan. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't feel comfortable taking a vote on it tonight because we didn't advertise it as such. And who knows, we advertise it, that we're gonna talk about it. Somebody will come in, maybe from the public can have a compelling reason when they want to keep it in. And let's give them that opportunity to come in with that. But, say, "Oh,
So, yeah, we're gonna have a meeting next month, most likely. We have a rezoning case that came in. I don't think it's gonna be controversial, but there's some things to it that are gonna have to be analyzed and.
Should I be so excited?
Huh?
Should I be so excited?
Yeah, that's, yeah, I won't get into it with you. I mean, you'll see the staff report. You'll probably ask some questions. And, it's something, it's something that we voted either up or down. That's all I can say. It's a tough one. So we're doing some more research on it, so. I'll talk to you more, Margo, so you understand what's going on. You'll be getting a couple calls. It's pretty isolated though.
Well, hopefully, if it's, everything's out in the open and public has the opportunity to comment, make sure we get everybody's
Yeah,
views on it, and kind of go from there, and try to make the best decision we can. So, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, if there's anything else, anybody like to talk about? Okay, do I have a motion for adjournment? All right, and do we have a second? And we have a vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye.